Hello and welcome to the Uprising Show. And today we are going to talk about one of the hottest topic in the market. And I have a very special guest today, Richie Jaynes. And Richie, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself, what you do, and then we jump into the interview.
Great. As you just mentioned, my name is Richie Jaynes. I'm the founder and creator of Livevelrx. We are a D2C e-commerce telehealth platform that brings the patient to the doctor and to the pharmacies and just pretty much make the process as seamless as possible. Basically, our slogan is we help you live your best life now by helping you get twice the results in half the time through peptide research science.
Wow. All right. So now you know probably why I said this is such a hot topic. Before we jump into business, let's go back in time. Richie, tell me about your upbringing. Where were you born and raised? Were you an entrepreneurial kid with lemonade stands? Was either of your parents an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So when you sent me over the questions, I saw this, and I thought, wow, this is I like this question a lot because I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and when my parents divorced when I was 7, after a few years later, we ended up moving to Texas with my dad, and from there we. Lived here in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex is where we lived at, and so what happened from there was looking back now in Nashville as a kid, I didn't realize I was a entrepreneur, right? And so, but I was. And so what I mean by that is I lived a great life as a kid because I literally lived on Music Row right there in Nashville, Tennessee. And right amongst all the music recording studios and everything. And so they, you know, as I mentioned, growing up in the Music Row was just really a blessing, to be honest with you. At the time, as a kid, I didn't realize what I was surrounded with, but I was an entrepreneur as a kid, and what happened for me was every summer I would go out to all these studios and ask if I could mow their front yards. Back then, the studios were old, refurbished homes, things like that, not big brick and office buildings like you see today, but they were all quaint homes that were turned into studios. And I had one of these mowers that were the Otami mowers that had the spinning blades, right? And as an 8 and 9 year old kid, I just went around and I didn't know what to charge. I'm charging $5 and $10 a yard, and that's what I did as a kid. So yeah, looking back, I was really an entrepreneur very early on. And in the wintertime, I would shovel snow. I went and bought a snow
There you
shovel
go.
from like Walmart, and I shoveled their sidewalks in the wintertime for about the same amount of time. They knew me from the summer, so they hired me in the winter. So yeah, looking back, I think I was kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit deep in my soul from an early age.
That's great. So you really enjoyed the Tennessee music scene while growing up, and uh, and then of course you made the most of your entrepreneurial venture. I was going to say after lemonade stand, it's mostly shoveling snow or cutting cutting the grass, right? Like mowing the lawn. So you were up there with what's expected. So that's good. Okay,
Yeah, you had to get
and what
creative.
about yeah? And what about your parents? Were they entrepreneurs? Any of them?
Yeah, my dad was sort of an entrepreneur. My mom was too. I would say that my dad, from a professional perspective, was you know, he was a fireman, but then also on the side, he was a rodeo guy, and he also was a farrier and shoed horses, and
Mm.
so he made a lot of things as a farrier from the fire and from the forge and things like that for a lot of clients and so forth. My mom was a hairdresser, and she owned her own beauty salons and hair salons as I grew up. So spent a lot of time also as a kid hanging out at the hair salon with all the women.
That's great. I mean, I always ask this question also because a lot of time there's a difference between kids who are born into service class families and they have to like overcome of that, service mentality to become entrepreneurs sometimes, and those are interesting strides they make. And then there are others like you who also are, entrepreneur by themselves, but also surrounded by other entrepreneurs, so that helps you get faster to where your learning sits. And I always believe that exposure matters a lot, right? Like in your life where you are, and that helps you get to the new places, and your own desires grow with it. So it's always
Yep.
interesting to great story. Thanks for sharing. So um, I mean, you've had a very diverse entrepreneurial career spanning across several industries, and I'm going to ask, like, what has been your most personally fulfilling project and why?
That's really a hard one to ask and pinpoint one project because at the time they all were very fulfilling, right? The one I'm working on now is probably the most fulfilling to me at this moment, to be quite candid with you. But if I really had to look back and look at the one that kind of shaped me the most and helped me really understand a lot more and really get out there is my time in the nutritional supplement space when I was in the distribution of nutritional supplements and I had built a distribution network of about 17 to 18,000 distributors across the U.S. and we were generating between 10 and 12 million dollars revenue a year. And so through that experience over 22 years of doing that, that gave me just a vast, wide range of just different types of experiences and things like that. So that I would say that would probably be the most one that would give me the most if I had to say the most fulfilling. Then again,
Okay.
like I said, that's in the past, and right now the one I'm working on through Livevelrx is the most fulfilling. And quite frankly, as more and more time goes on with me being involved with Livevelrx, it is actually becoming more and more fulfilling, and I'm liking it more and more every day.
Got it. And I mean, you've been into fitness industry as well, and I think that's what you did before starting this venture. So, how did your previous, entrepreneurial ventures prepare you for this transition? Especially now, you kind of moved from supplements to fitness to now you're moving into pharmacy space and using tech as well. So, slightly different. What do you feel like? What has helped you in this transition from previous life or previous careers?
Yeah, great. I think that's a great question and a very, I would say, a very good one at that because of my background. What I did previously, if you looked at what I did from a fitness perspective and in the fitness world, on the surface, it doesn't really look like it matches up with what I'm currently doing. With GLP-1s, Ozempic, semaglutide, the compounded version, trizipatide, which are three, and then Wegovy are the four GLP-1 medications we offer. And quite frankly, a lot of my colleagues and friends were really questioning me when I did dive into this. Like, what are you doing, man? That's not what we're about, and things like that. But it goes much deeper than that. And there's a method behind my madness, to be quite candid with you, when I did this, because in the previous world, and in my, I would say my formal professional background as a fitness professional, I was a strength and conditioning coach as well. I worked on the Division I university levels as well with a lot of athletes on the collegiate level. Uh, I also own private sports performance centers in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex where we dealt with a lot of professional athletes, collegiate athletes, high school athletes, and on down to your club athlete. And then I also own gyms as well too, which the fitness, just a general fitness gym. And so when you take that and you match it up and you look at GLP-1s and go, wow, how does that match? Well, the method behind my madness is this. When I was in that space, people would come to me with intent of wanting to change and utilize fitness and utilize nutrition and eating well, okay? And so that mesh that I would say that kind of came somewhat a little bit easier, but there was still a lot of banging the head against the wall. And so moving over into now this new space, what I found to be taking place is I'm able to take my former background and my experience and my knowledge with what I know about how to live a healthy lifestyle, how to eat properly, how to exercise properly, and do all these things that we should be doing anyways, right? and apply it and bring it into fold into this new GLP-1 peptide space as well. Not so much into peptides. Peptides and fitness lifestyle go hand in hand. GLP-1s, you kind of like look at it like it looks like oil and water a little bit, right? But here's where my method behind my madness is. What's happening now to me and what's happening is with us is that we are now having conversations with individuals that I would have never had a conversation with before. Meaning they would not have initially came to me or came to my business or my company asking about, hey, write me up a nutritional healthy program. Write me up a workout program. Hey, I want to hire you for personal training. I want to join your gym. 9 times out of 10, the people that are coming to us now for the GLP-1s, that has not either that has crossed their mind in the past. They've tried that, been there, done that, and it didn't necessarily work for them. And there's many reasons why that possibly didn't work. The nutrition plan, the workout plan, or whatever it may be. There could be many, many reasons why. But what I found is that the reason why most of the time it doesn't work with most individuals is because that's a long game. Okay. Long game, what I mean by that is you need to stick with that for 60 to 90 to 120 days minimum before you're really going to start seeing some really dramatic type results, okay? And what I found just in general with the US population is they don't have the discipline to stick with something that long. They give up or they're going to give up on it and move on, okay? What I found though is that if I can get someone on a GLP-1 medication, which is Ozempic, semaglutide, any one of those, now I can use that as a launching pad and a springboard and get them results immediately and right away out the gate within the first month. Now I've got their attention. Now they are interested. Now they are more motivated to stay the course. Now the door is cracked for me to now come in and drip on them and try to talk to them now. Hey, look, if you got that kind of result just using the product and using GLP-1, let's think about now if you added in one more thing. Let's say like walking 2 days a week where you weren't walking any at all. Let's talk about now maybe doing some weight resistance training 1 to 2 days a week where you weren't doing it at all. Or let's tweak your nutritional program just a little bit. Now we have those conversations. We can drip on them with those conversations. And now they're going to be interested because why? They're getting results. And what we have found is that lots of times people that have come to the table that had no success previously with those things I mentioned get on GLP-1s, and naturally they are coming to us, and naturally they are now starting to ask, hey, what can I do to do better? What if I eat this? What we found too is now people that weren't exercising are now exercising. What we found, people that weren't eating well are now taking a little bit more conscious intent effort towards their eating now is what they're doing. And so that's all adds up. That's all. So what I like to say is that this is a springboard and it's a launching pad into living a healthy lifestyle. Now, granted, everyone doesn't do that. Okay, not 100% are going to do that. But what we're finding is a lot. And I'll give you one prime example. I have a friend of mine who is, she is a trainer. She's extremely fit herself, is very successful in this space. She has a sister who's a doctor and who was overweight and not healthy. When her sister first started on the GLP-1s, she was not for it. She tried to discourage her, didn't want her to do it, and all these other things. But now what has happened is she came back and says, hey, I found out to be quite different. My sister now, she joined a gym. She's working out consistently. And now I went to lunch with her, and now she's talking about eating better, and she's more conscious about what she eats. So if that kind of answers your question in a long roundabout way, um, this is very unique in how I actually got involved with this and was able to expand upon it. And that's what. And you asked my question earlier. Am I finding this rewarding? That's where I find this very rewarding, is because I'm having conversations with people that I would have never had before.
Very interesting perspective. So, kind of like because people were able to get those results pretty quickly, that forced, or that at least made them inclined to changing their behaviors. And that is what you thought is like, it is more than the medicine itself, right? It's more than people changing this lifestyles because they could get this results and get it very quickly, and not like the old ways or traditional ways where it took more than 3 months or so.
Correct.
So very, very, very interesting in that way. And now I am picturing few people in my life who have also who also done the same things, and I'm looking through this lens of, yeah, yes, their behaviors have changed too. I'm seeing them being more cautious about their diets, more cautious about their lifestyle in general, and this is only after they had success with this. So it's kind of uh, uh, almost, I mean, no wonder why this is a miracle pill in that way, right? Because if something, but it again, it goes without, it goes, with saying that you still have to take action at your end after, even if you start. The medicine itself won't solve all the problems, obviously. So let's talk about a little bit more about Livevelrx. And it's a lot, your mission, and you mentioned it in the beginning, that is to make it accessible. You're kind of disrupting the traditional healthcare model of accessibility. So talk to me about a little bit how LiveWellRx simplifies getting these medications in the hands of patient, and how is it different from the traditional model.
Well, I think what's a little bit different in how we have kind of what I like to call flip the script, no pun intended. A lot of these processes that from traditional telehealth, which basically really became popular after COVID, right, is really when more telehealth. And so what I'm finding today is a lot of these telehealth platforms are still very archaic in their approach and in their look, and also in their process as well. Also, a lot of what I found is a lot of these telehealth programs, they were birthed out of a brick and mortar. And a lot of these brick and mortar doctors' offices added telehealth onto their business as a value add for their clients and for their patients and so forth, which is great, right? But that model is still like going into the office. It's still very cumbersome. It's still very clunky. It's still very time consuming to a point. Even though it's not as time consuming as getting your car driving to a place, right? But it still is. It's still just not what you go online for. When a person goes online, what they are going on for, they're looking for a true e-commerce experience. Okay. And what we have done here at Livevelrx, that's what we have tried to give them, is the true e-commerce experience, the true e-commerce flow and process. When it comes to these particular medications, it shouldn't be that difficult to get. Okay. Now, keep in mind, we do have rules and regulations and things we do have to follow. But you can think outside the box and be a little bit more creative and think in the mind of the patient and of the consumer, and make it more of an e-commerce experience and the sales psychology that would go into that. Because that's exactly what we're doing here. We're making it just like if you're going online buying a pair of shoes or a shirt, okay? Because again, this shouldn't be that difficult to get, because we're not dealing with a class 2 controlled substance here. It doesn't take that much oversight. Now, it does take oversight. It does take, a doctor. It does take, someone being involved from that perspective, but not nearly at the level that we're dealing with these class 2 controlled substances and things like that, right? So what we've done, again, we flipped the script. We've made it more of an e-commerce experience. Meaning, when you come to our site, 9 times out of 10, you know what you want. You know, we don't necessarily need to 100% educate you, and that's kind of what you see when you land on a lot of these sites. It's word after word after word after word. It's paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. It's scientific evidence, scientist this, science that. People don't want all that. They just want to know, does it work at the end of the day? and they want to see results, and they want to make it easy to get. They want to get in and get out. They don't want to hear all that other stuff. Is what they don't want to hear. So we've tried to simplify that entire process. Is what we've done. And if you have questions, we can get them answered for you. But 9 times out of 10, people don't have a lot of questions other than some of the basic stuff. When am I going to get it? How, things like that. And how do I use it? And that's very easily explainable because that comes with instructions from the pharmacy how to use it. So it's a very simple process. So what we've done here is we flipped the script. We have basically made this a true e-commerce experience is what we've done.
It's it's always that thing. I ask this question is like, why not? Why not all these e-commerce transactions should be seamless as is it on Amazon, as is for other stuff. Why not in healthcare, right? And that's always the question.
Mm-hmm.
And something you touched, and I've been in healthcare for long, and I've seen it too many times when we try to do intakes and forms and consents, and yes, there needs to be compliance, but also sometimes it's overdone, right? It's too much friction we create. So I like that thinking of how do we not forget the experience part of it, right? For the patients who's actually coming up to you with already an understanding of what they want, and that's also a big difference here. So that totally makes sense. Okay, so you are pretty much in all states in the country, and that itself is exceptional. In terms of operations, how, when you're scaling this, what were the obstacles that you ran into, things like from delivery to even whatnot that I haven't heard probably, so would like to hear from you. Something specific to while you are building this operations across 50 states, what were the hurdles that you face, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, I would say the number one hurdle to overcome was find doctors that had the license to be able to do all 50 states. It's not an easy thing to do. There's not a lot of them out there that do that, right? And
Hmm.
then from there, finding the doctors, and from that point, trying to find the doctors and have them all under one roof as well too. Me be able to process and be able to put my systems in place on my back end to be able to make that as seamless as possible and frictionless as possible on my end, because otherwise I would have it. Let's just hypothetically say I'm in 50 states and I would have to have 50 different doctors. Well, probably I'm going to have 50 different intakes. I'm then going to have to send that to 50 different types of um, systems. And so the more important thing was trying to find the cohesiveness on the back end to where it was a lot of less work on my end, and be able to put that system and processes together on my end on the back side of things. Again, the customer doesn't see any of this stuff. This has nothing to do with the customer. They don't experience any of this. This is once the customer comes through the wall and we get their information and we get what they want. Now from there is being able to process it and send it in a manner that is the most efficient, most effective way possible. And then from there, trying to find, the systems in place to be able to get that information now to the pharmacies, and for the pharmacies to receive that and be able to fill that in a timely manner, because time is of an essence. People are doing online because they want it quicker. They want convenience. And if you're taking 2 weeks, 10 days to get something to somebody, it defeats the entire purpose. So that was really, I would say, the biggest hurdle was trying to find the doctor networks and the doctors on my end and be able to put them into my system in the right manner and be able to get that information out to the pharmacies in the right manner, where it's received properly and read properly and filled properly, and also then be able to receive the customer and patient information to get to the and get their medication to the patient. That was probably my biggest hurdle.
I was gonna I was gonna say, like, where did you even find doctors who are like
A lot of
have
work.
licenses in all 50?
A lot of work. It was a lot of work.
Because I don't think I know even a single doctor who's like, I have license for every state in the
Yeah, yeah.
country.
There are a few out there. You just got to search for them. They're like kind of finding a needle in a haystack, to be quite honest with you. And but there are They're becoming more and more every week. I can tell you that. More and more
Mm,
every month are getting on board with this because number one, as a doctor, it makes total sense. If I'm a doctor, that's what I'm going to want to do. I'm just going to want to sit behind a computer and knock out 50, 60 scripts a day and get paid, whatever it is, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks a day and knocking out per script, right? That's easy. I say it's easy. It doesn't take a lot because what it does, a lot of it just becomes automatic. It's a plug and play
mhm.
is what it becomes. So, yeah, more and more doctors are smartening up to this entire process.
Yeah, the since the I think majorly from COVID onwards, it's really picked up this trend where at least doctors have started to think through expansion of their services beyond their state, and the best way to do that is like get a license to the state next to it, and then next to it, and then next to it, and that's how they're going about the business. And sometimes uh, now that we know like certain treatments are coming, like doctors are able to do medications even if sitting, you know, in a different state, and those treatments are also coming and helping, that can be treated prescription based treatments. And so it makes sense, but even though still, I think the important thing that which credit should go to you, like I won't think like, hey, you know how you solve problems, right? Like you thought it in this way, like let me find a person who has license in 50 states, and I'm more like a person like let me find a person who has most licenses in whichever state, and that's where I go with the service,
Right.
right? So I like this thinking of like standardizing process and building efficiency, keeping the end user again in the mind, the patient, that how fast I can get delivery, and to make sure that I don't have to build 50 different intakes or 10 different intakes. I'll find a doctor who has licenses. So I really like that thinking in that way. Like you already thought about it
Yep.
that way. This is something for me to learn. Let's say that.
Yep. Yep.
So that's good. Okay, so now let's talk about the myths, right? So there's a lot of false information, partial information, and out there about GLPs, and like what is that few things that you hear the most, and you're like every week telling someone like that's not true. So tell me
Yeah.
about like few things, few myths that you think that you would take this opportunity right now to burst them once forever so more people listen it, and talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I would say that two of them that kind of get under my skin the most is number one, GLP-1s make you lose muscle. That's a myth. The GLP-1 itself does not make you lose muscle. What makes you lose muscle is that you are not eating enough quality protein when you do this. And that becomes back to where you're getting yourself from, and then someone telling you this and being more intent about letting you know. You have to be conscious about what you're eating. You have to be conscious about eating enough protein because you're not going to want to eat, okay, because it does cut down your appetite. So indirectly, by cutting down your appetite, you're not eating enough protein, which therefore you're going to lose muscle. You're also not working out. Okay, well, guess what happens when I always get asked this question prior to me getting involved in this industry. Hey, I've been working out. What happens if I stop working out? Well, what the hell you think's going to happen? I mean, that's an easy answer. Like it's going to go away. Okay, so with GLP-1s, it's going to cut your appetite down. So if you're not eating, what's going to happen? You're going to lose muscle. So we need to be more conscious about protein. So GLP-1s don't actually make you lose muscle. It's the lack of nutrition of protein that's making you lose muscle. The second myth that I get a kind of a chuckle at is these. Obviously, you mentioned this is a very hot space. Okay, everybody and their dog is going to get on the bandwagon. All these companies are coming out of the woodworks. The newest thing that's coming out is we have an all natural alternative supplement to GLP-1 medications where you don't have to take an injection, no oral or whatever, right? It's safe, it's this, it's that. That is a bunch of BS I've ever heard in my entire life. Okay? Because if they knew what they were talking about, GLP-1s which is, branch, which is amino acid chains, is one of the most natural ingredients that you're going to get because those are naturally produced within the body. Okay? So let's take supplements. You can go and get a plant, the bark off a tree, or a leaf, or whatever you want to go do. Take that substance from those sources, make a supplement out of it. But how are you going to make a supplement out of it? You got to take it to a laboratory. They got to alter it in order to get it into the supplement form, in order for you to be able to ingest that in some administrative way. It now becomes somewhat unnatural to a point. No different than GLP-1s. These are natural gastric juices that are derived from the body. You make them in your system. We're taking them and we're making these amino acid chains in the laboratory, just like they would on a leaf or from like stevia or whatever else, right? Stevia is not that natural. You got to get the stevia from the leaf somehow and change it into that powder form and be able to put it in your tea or coffee or whatever you're using it with to be able to make it sweet. Same thing happens with GLP-1s. No difference. So I think one of the biggest myths is these people out there trying to angle and sell you a bag of goods like we got a natural supplement here that's a GLP-1 supplement, trying to say that this is better than the real GLP-1s. That is the biggest bunch of bull I've ever heard in my entire life. You're going to waste your money.
Great. You know what? I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple of, maybe more than a couple of ads on TikTok about this natural replacement of GLP or substitute for GLP ones, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was. How you're explaining it, and it's it's like I like to call this as like marketing gimmicks, right? Like they can label, attach their thing, the same thing that they probably were selling long ago, and now they can just use as a reference of GLP-1 to like say like and stamp it like, hey, this is also natural GLP-1, and this is what they're going to do. So this is like, you know, opportunistic, gimmicky marketing, and the fluff that happens on the internet and how it's done,
Yeah.
in waves, right? Like things goes up.
Yeah, you're right. Now,
So,
let me elaborate a little bit too. I don't want to sit there and sound like I'm downing on something because I'm a big supplement guy. I love supplements.
uh-huh.
They are
Yeah.
supplements. There's a place and a way to use them. Okay, but like you just said, this marketing gimmick that these people are selling you on is wrong. Okay, if you're going to use a GLP-1, you might as well use the real thing. Okay,
Hmm.
you might as well go and not waste your money on these gimmicks, as you mentioned, as you said it, and I agree with that word, that terminology. These gimmicks, and go ahead and buy the real stuff, and go through a reputable source to get it. You're not going to walk into your GNC and get this. You're not going to walk in your local vitamin shop or retailer or some MLM company and get it from them. It's a knockoff and it's a bag of goods, is what it's going to end up being. Again, if you're using it in supplementation in support of some things, different story. Supplementation has its way of being used properly, and if you use it properly, it can be great good to you. But this angle and this sales gimmick and marketing gimmick they're trying to push over on people nowadays is just wrong, and people need to be educated on it.
Yeah. Well, what's your? I'm sure you see a million advertisements as I see it on these social media platforms. What's your pulse on looking at a ton of advertising and influencers, health influencers pushing products? How do you feel about that? I have a certain emotion about it, and I will share with you, but I want to hear what you feel about all those things.
Again, it's just being able to weed out and filter through the good and the bad. I think with anything that's great out there in this world, you're going to have opportunistic people, opportunists to come on board and try to take advantage of that. And you just got to be smart enough to see through the smoke. To be quite honest with you, I think is the case. And unfortunately, we're not going to stop that. We're not going to keep that from happening. It's going to be with any sector or any type of product that comes out. You're going to have people out there to be able to do that and go out and be an opportunistic type individual and take advantage of people and things like that. So, There's real ones and there's not real ones, right? And so that's what we try to do. Say we try to proclaim to be a real one. We're real people selling you real products with real results. That's kind of what we say: real people, real product with real results.
Well, I'm going to tell this for our listeners. By the way, Richie's not just saying this on this show. You can actually read it on his website. And if you read about him, he actually says this. The reason why I put my picture is I want to show that I'm a real person, not just a corporate brand. And this is something, just as a marketer, I want to give everyone this advice that, the era of faceless brands is done. Now it's the people. Put people, companies, people up front as part of your brand. That's how you build a brand that people connect to.
Yeah,
So,
a great example on a very large level like this: hating, loving, it doesn't matter. Elon Musk.
mhm.
A lot of people buy his product, his cars, because of him, not because of the cars, right? I mean, again, love him, hate him, or whatever it is, and this is not a political statement at all. You take Trump; he's a branding guy. That's just what he's done his entire career. That you buy his product or his services based on the brand name as well. But there's a face to it, right? There are a lot of people nowadays that don't buy that because of him, right? So there's the flip side. So it can be very good, it can be very bad, right? So it can go either way with you. But that is a great point. There needs to be faces with companies nowadays. There's too many faceless companies, and I think for me personally, I want to know who's running the company. I want to know there's who's standing behind it. Can I put a face to it? Therefore it makes it real, and it makes more of a relationship. And so that's what we try to do. Real people, real products, real results.
And let me touch upon one more point about the. Is there influx of, I don't know what's the best way to describe it? Bad quality of GLPs in the market from manufacturers, or fake GLPs from the market. Is that a thing? Is it happening?
Yeah,
Because
no,
every
there
time there
is.
is.
So there's different types of peptides out there, and so when I say peptides, GLP-1s fall under that particular category. GLP-1s are just a type of peptide. Okay, so yes, absolutely. And the first type of peptides out there are what we call research peptides. Okay, research peptides have no regulation really to them. Now they do on a 30,000 foot surface level. Everything that's going to be sold online, everybody's going to sell to the public. There's always some type of regulation involved with it, and also some type of oversight. But when it comes to research peptides, there's a lot of loose ends when it comes to the actual manufacturing, the sourcing, and all these other things. Okay, so, and I'm not against research peptides. There's a lot of great companies out there that do, but there's just as many, if not as many, bad ones out there. And the problem that you have with research peptides is because of that regulation, because you don't know where they're necessarily coming from. Yes, the company may say made in America, but 9 times out of 10, they're sourcing it from some foreign country like China, which we know how the wild, wild west is with that. And I can probably give you hundreds of great stories of people that use research peptides, and I can give you just as many horror stories of people that use research peptides. So, if you're going to use research peptides, use with caution and use at your own risk. Okay? And then there's the real peptides coming from an American, or it doesn't have to come from America, but Ozempic, you can get Ozempic from foreign pharmacies and foreign manufacturers, as long as they're a Novo Nordisk type registered distributor, things like that, right? So you can do that. When it comes to compounds, now that's American made. You want to make sure that you're using that's coming from an American, certified, licensed, regulated compounding pharmacy. Therefore, they're going through the processes properly. They are using the right regulations and oversights and everything else in order to make the most, especially when we're dealing with these sterile products, right? So
Got it. Okay.
that's my
Um,
take.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more about your company. What's your current traction looks like, as in like how many patients you've been serving each month now, and also go touch upon a little bit about, as a company owner, as a founder CEO, what are your biggest challenges at the moment?
Yeah, so right now we are servicing. So back up. We launched June. So Livevelrx was launched June 1st of 2023. And obviously, like with any startup, you're going to have a few hiccups and hurdles and things like that. So there was a lot of starting and stopping, and 10 steps forward, 10 steps back type situations. Obviously, with any startup, and because you don't really know until you actually get in a game what's going to really happen, right? Sometimes, and so, but we overcame all those with great, with a lot of persistency and stuff like that. And so, here we are today, just a little over a year into this. So we're still considered a startup. We're still growing. So we average right now, we have about 150 to 200 patients that we service. We also work right now too with a insurance captive company as well, that we are their preferred vendor for Ozempic and Wegovy. We are the lowest price on Ozempic and Wegovy in America right now. I can I can pretty much say that with a lot of confidence, that I can compete with pretty much anybody and beat their pricing on Ozempic and Wegovy, uh, which makes us very special in that sense. And so our Ozempic sales and Wegovy have actually gone through the roof, because people want the brand name. The captive company, insurance captive company, has really worked well with us as too, because if you have certain insurance, they work with. If you're self-insured or self-funded, they can probably work with you. We can put you in touch with them. They'll ask you a few questions. If so, you could probably through them get your Ozempic and Wegovy for free. So uh, we have that going on, and then obviously we're scaling to other types of peptides. We have TRT right now that we just added. We have TRT injectables and we have TRT oral. One of the best and most effective and safest oral products on the market today, called Kaisertrex, which is the newest form of oral testosterone. It has a 2x type uh, results of raising your testosterone. 96% of people that get on it see results with it. So it's got a great effect. We are scaling to other peptides over the next, I would say, week, 2 weeks to a month. You're going to start seeing also on our site other peptides being added, such as IGF-1, NAD, glutathione, Samorlin, things like that, some of the popular peptides. So we're expanding and scaling those things because I believe peptides is the future of functional medicine and where things are going to go, and more people are doing it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The future looks really, really bright. Again, it's sometimes kind of like trying to herd cats, to be honest with you. So it's we're still trying to keep all those cats in line and do that. The biggest hurdle to date, honestly, I would say, has been on the marketing side of things. With all the rules and regulations and oversights and things like that, and with Meta and Google and all these things, they constantly are changing the rules and changing the regulations on you. They pull the carpet right out from underneath you, and you got to pivot like overnight, and you got to change things up when you got all these assets out there already. So I would say marketing is surprising, but marketing has probably been one of the biggest hurdles we've had to overcome. You would think it would be sourcing and all these other things, which now looking back, man, that was like elementary. So compared to what we did with this marketing, because the marketing can get real expensive too when it doesn't go your way, right? So
Yep.
real expensive.
Yep. Um, what about looking into the future? What is like the long-term goal for your company?
Yeah, man, I tell you, you asked the question earlier, what is most fulfilling right now? I want to say this is what makes us very fulfilling as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, because we have about a 24 to 36 month strategy here that we want to work on. And we truly believe within a 24 to 36 months from now that we'll be in a position that we think a very much larger company is going to come and want to buy us out. That's real exciting to be able to try to build towards that and do that. A lot of great things we have on the plate right now that we're going to be coming out with, that we're currently working on, that as soon as it comes to fruition, it's going to make it much more affordable for the patient. It's going to make it a lot seamless for the patient. There's going to be a lot more options for the patient. So we have a lot of things in the works. And again, that's why I mentioned it's trying to herd cats right now and try to put all that in order to be able to roll it out properly and in the right manner as well too. So we say the future is extremely bright here as far as what's going on with Livevelrx and what we have on the table and what's going to come to fruition very soon. Again, we're looking at, with this space right now, we think a very much larger company is going to come in and want what we have and buy us out.
Well, I'm sure if you keep and with your track record, I'm very bullish on that. That's where it's going to end up.
Thank you.
So, so that's it's not. I would say like it's not possible. I see it completely that you will be able to get there. And let's talk about a couple of personal questions before we end the show. One is you've been described as disruptor rather than just an entrepreneur. I was reading this, and so what innovations do you see from that lens on the horizon for healthcare that you feel like this will continue to disrupt the healthcare market specifically?
It goes back to peptides, guys. This space is just it. There's the front. It's the great frontier. It's the wild wild west right now, and so um, it's Lewis and Clark. If you know who Lewis and Clark is, getting on that raft right now and going up the river and not really knowing what you're going to get into, but just knowing that the great frontier is out there. Moving into the West is really what this is like. And with what they're finding out in technology and what's taking place right now with peptides and what they're coming on board with, and what they're utilizing it for and how it's actually changing people's lives. I mean, I went in today, so I go and get what's called fascia stretch therapy, which is helps me stretch a little bit, helps break up the fascia around my joints and things like that in my muscles. And the girl there today, uses BPC 157 for inflammation. Her husband just had knee surgery, and he's used it for that. And she goes, it was a game changer. As her words were, game changer. And so I'm going to think that with what's on the horizon for peptides, and with technology that we have at our fingertips right now, the possibilities are endless. And I do believe it's going to eventually take over. More and more doctors are now becoming more educated about it. I mean, going back even a year ago when one of the doctor groups I work with wanted nothing to do with peptides, now they're exploring and now they are now prescribing and have more doctors involved that, are with peptides. So yeah, I think that's where the future lies. And GLP-1s fit into that. Your big companies are, they already have the next big thing coming out to help people with their weight loss. Weight loss is never going to go away. It's always going to be a hot topic. It's always going to be a hot seller. Everybody's always going to be interested in it. Everybody's always going to want it. So that will always be there. I've been in nutritional supplementation in the supplement space for 30 plus years. And from day one, new weight loss products have been at the forefront of that. So that's never going to go away. So I just think as we're constantly evolving, things are going to just continually get better.
I hope it does because I also feel like there is a lot of focus on just in general, like we are moving away from, or at least there is this awareness in the patient base to like moving away from the sick care system to more preventative and more towards proactive care, and all these things play a bigger role of how we live our life before we get sick. And that's where I think is the biggest uh, I would say like the opportunity in healthcare is, right? Like up until now this was more about when we have diseases, how do we treat them? And now we've moved into this era where we want to look at things, how do we change our lifestyles so that we don't get sick? And that's
Yeah.
kind of what it is going into.
Yeah,
So
sick
it's
care as opposed to preventative care, right? And Google has really helped us out a lot because people are really smart. It goes back to earlier when I said, look, you come to our site, man. I don't need to really educate you a whole lot. You're already educated. You have everything at your fingertips. You have the world at your fingertips and the world of information at your fingertips. You've already done your research. You've already got your information you need. You already know what you want, right? And so what's happening is people are becoming smarter. So now that people are taking back control of their health, they are now becoming more preventative. Now they're looking into more functional preventative type medicines and alternatives and modalities that's going to help them live, a more quality life. So absolutely, and that's why you're finding more and more doctors pivoting away from sick care and into preventative and functional medicine care.
Yep. Well, this has been great. And this is the last fun question that I ask all my guests. And it's tell me about anything that you feel like you would like to share and no one in your professional circles knows about it, and this is your chance to tell anyone and everyone. So what would that be?
Man, I would say so. Back in the day, I was a bodybuilder. Won Mr. North Texas and did pretty well at that. And I would say that because if I ever broke out an old picture of me, they look like that's you, and I go, yeah, that's me. And because it doesn't look like me now, because I'm quite the body. The body's quite different there, and so you know what, I can humbly say though, I still try to keep myself in great shape. That is a very, very another big part of my life and my family. I'm a family guy first and foremost. I think a lot of people on the professional side wouldn't know that. I think if I really had to share, be bodybuilding, and this part right here is that I'm a big family guy. Usually entrepreneurs, you don't really see that aspect about them. You don't know that aspect about them. But I've been with my wife now for 32 years. I've got
Nice.
two beautiful daughters, grown. I got two amazing grandkids. For me personally, having living life with them is probably the greatest joy of my life. And so I do all this to be able to create time, but keep my priorities in order. And if I had to share anything with any entrepreneurs out there listening, if you got to keep your priorities in order. Now, there's no balance to successful entrepreneurs. I'm gonna tell you right now, there is zero balance to successful entrepreneurs. But what they do have is they do have their priorities in order, and that's your faith, family, and then your career. The moment you move your faith out of order or your family up top there, it gets chaos, and you have chaos in your life. Or if you move your career to number one, there's going to be complete chaos. If you move your faith down to number three, there's complete chaos. Keep your faith number one, your family number two, and your career number three.
Well said. Thanks for sharing. So Richie, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and hit you up? Where they can find you?
Yeah. So the first place is our website. That is LiveWellRx. That's LiveWellRx .clinic. Not the other, but .clinic. That's the first place, and you can message us from there as well. You can also email me at Richie at livewellrx.clinic, RICHIE. And but the best place is to go to our site and message us from there. We have our email on there as well. Our company email is on there. Um, Phone numbers are on there as well too. So that would be the best place to reach out and try to connect. We have instant messaging on there that we'll all receive as well.
All right. So you've heard it once again. Livevelrx.clinic. That's their website. And you can reach out to Richie and just message him. And, I think it's a very fascinating thing that you're doing. It's the need of the hour. And like you said, people want it. So it's more about also removing the friction to make sure they get what they need. And I always think of very basic need of healthcare is like access and affordability, and that's kind of both you are touching with this. So I feel always bullish with the solutions that come and solve especially these two problems, because at the end of the day we can build whatever we want, but if we don't solve these two problems in healthcare we don't solve anything else.
But
So
I
that's how
agree.
it is. So yeah, once again, thanks for your time.
Thank you for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate. And for our listeners, once again, we'll put it in our notes, their website and every detail, and reach out to Richie, and especially if you are, this is in all 50 states. So
Yep.
if you are looking for these medications, reach out directly to livewellrx.clinic.
Thank you so much for having me.